Split the heavens and shake the earth, like fire burning wood and causing water to boil. So burn your name into the land of your enemies, and from your presence the nations will quake if you come down. You meet with the one who rejoices in righteousness, with he who remembers you and your ways. What about our sin that's been covering our nation? It's been going on now for so many days. Won't you come down? All of us have become unclean. Our righteousness is like dirty stains. And just like the wind, our iniquities are gonna blow our withering lives away unless you come down. 'Cause we've rebelliously turned and now become burned, and like a barren wilderness, Lord, we barely remain. But we're still the work of your hands, the design of your plan. Lord, look at these things. Will you refrain, or will you come down? Come down. Yet through it all, there's no one who calls on his name, who stirs his own soul to take hold of his name, who arouses themselves from the mud and the clay. I want to be that one. I want to be just one to stand and cry, come. Friends, when God warns us of something coming that's not something we'd wish for or want for on our own, it's the kindest thing he could do for us. It's like this. If you had a friend who was running beside you and about to run off a cliff, and you could see the cliff, and you could see the friend, and you could see the disaster that's coming, the kindest thing you can do is yell, "Stop!" Or if you have a little child, and the little child is just learning how to walk and sees the pretty lights of the roaring bonfire, he just wants to play. You would be a monster if you didn't do everything in your power to stop them from learning the hard way what that looks like. God is a God of kindness and compassion. And he made us, and he knows what's best for us every single time. Surely the sovereign Lord dwells in a high and a holy place, but also with the contrite and lowly in spirit. King Hezekiah learned it firsthand. You see, it wasn't long after the armies of Assyria had gone their way, and the Lord had brought this mighty deliverance for us as a people, as a nation, as a remnant. Hezekiah became ill, really ill. He thought he was going to die. He thought he was going to die, and so I went to prayer for him right away. And the answer was clear. The answer was simple, but it wasn't easy. Hezekiah was a friend. He was a godly man. He was a man I admired who had brought the nation of Israel back to God. And the word from the Lord was simply this: King Hezekiah, the Lord wants you to know it's time to get your house in order, because you are not going to recover. You are going to die. I remember feeling like I was slinking out of that room, and his face was straight. accepting, and king-like. Thank you, Isaiah. But the door hadn't shut in the room before I heard him already. Oh, God! Remember my faithfulness to you, God. The good that I brought about in the land, God. How I've served you my whole life, oh, God. He really meant it. And the echoes of his prayers and the vision in my mind's eye of his tears as I ushered myself out of the palace. I didn't even make it home. God gave me another message to share with the king. Way better word. And I rushed back as fast as I could. And I told him, King, the Lord has heard your prayer and he's seen your tears and he's going to grant you 15 more years. Friends, surely the Lord dwells in a high and holy place and also with the contrite and lowly in spirit in order to revive the spirit of the lowly and to revive the heart of the contrite. We need to be a nation who trusts only in God. It's my heart and my call, the center of my message, to turn our eyes back to the one true God. It drives me crazy when people choose things beside him. Oh, I gotta show you something. You already met the first two Babylonian gods? Oh, his eyes are always falling out. I call this one Moloch. I made him myself. He's not a real idol. He's how I relieve stress when I get mad at people who worship idols. So I just named him after one of theirs. The funny thing is, mine is way more alive. You know why? I made his head out of a potato. You could plant little mini Moloch here in the dirt anywhere and you get potatoes by spring. And whenever I'm walking out by myself, I take my little pot, kind of represents me, kind of represents you, crafted by a creator, molded like pottery. And I pray for Jerusalem. Oh, Jerusalem. God, I pray they would turn back to you. Oh, Jerusalem, that you would be humbled. Oh, Jerusalem, that you would hear his voice. I usually do it till I hit his head off. And then just for safekeeping, every time I put him away, I try to be real gentle. And I usually accidentally drop him on his head. Oh, Moloch, you poor little fellow. Because I can't stand people who worship idols. Are you for real? They find a block of wood and they bring it home to their house. And they cut it in half. And with half of it, they make a nice warm fire. And with the warm fire, they make a nice toasty bread. And they eat the bread, and then while they're hungry, they think, I should worship a god. Oh, look, there's a lump of wood. And they make another idol, and they fashion it with their own hands. And they even get tired while they're doing it. And then they sit there and worship something that cannot save. It can't even hear them. It can't even see them. The goldsmith covers it in gold. The blacksmith hits it with his hammer. The carpenter uses his chisels. And none of them seem to stop along the way and think, I'm smarter than this block of wood. I wonder how many of us do that to other things in our lives. Putting trust in something that cannot save. Your riches and your wealth. It'll look like it for a minute, till it's gone. Your strength and your health, that'll go too. Your fancy education and all your experiences will never save. Never save. But there's something coming. Something greater than I really can wrap my head around. There's a change coming. There's a new, like everything. Like there's a new heaven and a new earth. And there's going to be a time when the nation of Israel will no longer be subject to ridicule, when the people who've been pushed into exile will be drawn back. Yet there is a season coming, and there's bits and pieces and visions in my head that are coming together. And there's one who is coming. Yeah, there's one who is coming who's going to make all the difference. And he will grow up like a tender shoot, like a root out of dry ground. But he won't have any beauty or majesty that would attract us to him. In fact, while we consider him unloved by God, while we don't esteem him, God will absolutely esteem him. And he will be beaten for our transgressions. And he will be bruised for our iniquities. And upon him will be laid a punishment that somehow brings us peace. You see, we are like those sheep, the dumb ones, who are wandering their own way, and they don't know which way is home. And we're wandering around on our own. And he's like a sheep, but like a sheep that you're leading just to cut its wool off. And it's calm and peaceful, like a sheep that someone is leading to slaughter, and it has no idea. And like a lamb led to the slaughter, he's not going to open his mouth. But it's God's will to crush him. It's God's will that he should suffer, and the will of the Lord will prosper in his hands. And when he comes to the time of his untimely death, he will be counted among the wicked and buried in a tomb among the rich. But it won't last forever. Because after a while, he will see the light of life, and his joy will be complete. For by his sacrifice, we will be redeemed. There is something very temporary in that moment that is giving way to something very eternal. Yeah. A child will be born. A son will be given. And he will be called Wonderful. He will be called Counselor. He will be called Mighty God. He will be called Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. He will sit on the throne of his father David and rule for all eternity. And of the increase of his government there will be no end. And of the increase of his peace there will be no end. Everything is changing.